Okay, so we are recording, and somewhere oh, there we go. And we are also doing live transcription. So with that, let's just jump into our meeting this morning. First of all, I want to welcome you all. I hope you all had a good weekend. Let's see, so schedule for our meetings coming up. January 24th, which of course is today, the 31st, February 7, 14, and 28. No meeting on February the 21st, which is President's Day. So I wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that. And just a reminder that for those of you who may be new, that we do our kibitzing with colleagues after this meeting. It's a strictly informal session for people who want to chat, get to know each other, ask questions, get input, and so forth. So we encourage you all to hang online if you choose to do that. And before I move on, do we have any new people joining us this morning? Anybody joining us for the first time? Okay, going once, going twice.
Steve, I think there was someone in the chat, Soda Garcia.
Yeah, hi, I'm new here.
Okay,
I'm an intern at Alan Panther. Good morning, everyone.
good morning. So Soda, can you tell us who you are and who you're with?
Yeah, I'm actually a new intern. I just arrived a couple of weeks ago. I'm interning at Alan Panther. So hi, everyone.
Great. I'm sorry, you're interning with who?
Alan Panther organization.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, welcome. Glad you could join
Thank
us this
you.
morning. And anybody else? Okay, so moving on. First of all, I want to remind you that we do have our updates and events and updates on the website. And then, as you probably have seen, that I am starting to include a bunch of announcements in the email invitation for the meetings. And so I try to give you at least a quick glimpse of some of the key things that are happening. But I do encourage you to go to our website, the events and updates webpage for additional information, including a fairly good overview of all of the funding opportunities, the federal, state funding opportunities, and key events and so forth. So I encourage you to check that out every week. Next thing is that we are launching. We were very fortunate to have some folks step up and sponsor us last year, and we're going to be needing more money as we continue the work of the task force and some of the new initiatives we'll be taking on. So we are looking for sponsors. There's a link on this page, and I will be sending a separate email to all of you asking for your support. So I'm hoping that many of you can step up and provide us some additional funding. If you have any questions, I'm certainly glad to talk to you about that. So I look forward to that participation. So, so the agenda for today. So again, just a reminder, if you haven't done so, as I do every week, if you have not gone to our Google form and put in your contact information with your organization, phone number, etc., please do that so that we have a good record of everybody who's participating in the task force. Part of the benefits of the task force is people being able to connect and collaborate with each other. Can't do that if they can't find you. So please take the time to do that. And then Leah, I didn't get a chance to check the list. Leah, are you online today? Leah Marquez Peterson? Well, Leah sent me an email that, as many of you know, that Leah is chairwoman of the Arizona Corporation Commission. And we've been having some discussions, and as has the commission, about changes to the Arizona Universal Service Fund. And so she sent me a note that they're going to be looking at some changes to that Universal Service Fund. And she has asked that we schedule a meeting of this group, anybody who chooses to be a part of that discussion before February the 4th. And so I'm going to be scheduling a meeting, hopefully by the end of this week, for anybody who would like to participate in that discussion and help us to formulate our recommendations about the Universal Service Fund and what we would like to see, what changes we would like to see. Again, it's only our recommendations, but we certainly would like to provide our input. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, moving on quickly. So Mark, you have an event coming up that you wanted to talk about.
Sure, if you might let me share.
Okay.
Just a second. Putting something first in the chat. And now sharing. Hopefully. Basic, advanced. Why am I not seeing it? So it's on my screen. Sorry, you caught me by surprise there.
I'm sorry.
Share screen, screen.
Oh, there you go.
Great. So in the past, I helped ASU Law School produce a series, two series of lunch webinars, on-site events on blockchain and fintech. With a bit of a pandemic break, we're back with a series called State of Innovation Scene in Arizona. So I am moderating the kickoff section that will be on that topic on a number of emerging sectors here: bioindustry, blockchain and fintech, smart cities, and autonomous vehicles. Dominic, who Steve mentioned, has moved on, is still going to present on that topic. And software as a service, there's a guy, Greg Head, with a great entrepreneurial startup background here that publishes a list called Greg's List, which is all the open jobs in the software and app sector. In
Greg's List, where did you get that name, Mark?
Greg's List, right? I know it is funny, and I do follow Craig's List, his competitor, for things. So it's a great panel. It's at 12:10 p.m. based on classroom availability at the law school next Thursday. It's free, it's hybrid. And fully, obviously love to have you come on site if you're comfortable and that's practical for you, serve you lunch and have you visit there. But it's also fully hybrid, so you're welcome to participate remotely. I put a brief thing in the chat with the registration form linked, and the other two sessions may be of somewhat less interest to the bulk of this group, but it's followed after this session by sessions on intellectual property law for entrepreneurs and funding and deal flow for entrepreneurs. We wanted to start it out with this kind of overview and heads up and look forward on the Arizona innovation scene. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, Mark. Can you stop sharing, please?
Yep.
And I will share. That's not the one I want.
And I'm sure you'll get to it, but I also put the link for the Tech Council's Tech Connect, the winter edition that featured First Mile Project and Sun Corridor Network and a couple of pages on ACBSN with quotes from you and Jeff and others.
By the way, Jeff, thank you very much for your endorsement in that article. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Steve. The least I could do.
Does anybody know, is Tim Carter still looking for a broadband coordinator, or has he found somebody? Anybody know?
You're talking about Yavapai County?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still looking, to my understanding, as of last week.
Okay, so again, Tim Carter, Yavapai County School Superintendent, is looking for a broadband coordinator to help them with their planning, and would like, if you are interested or know somebody who might be interested, please contact him. And next, Cindy, you're up again to request support for your participation in the National Digital Inclusion Alliance Conference. Cindy, are you there?
Yes, thanks very much, Steve. I'm Cindy Hogan. I'm Digital Inclusion Ambassador this year. I work through AmeriCorps, and I'm working for Literacy Connects. And I'm going to go to the National Net Inclusion Conference put on by the National Digital Inclusion Alliance coming up in February. I'm only receiving a really small stipend this year, so I'm looking for some help to cover the cost of this conference, which is going to be close to $2,000, right in that range. And so if anyone has the wherewithal to help me with that a little bit, or the whole thing, or knows someone that might be able to contribute, I'd sure appreciate it. And you can contact me in the chat, and we can go from there. I'm looking for reimbursement for flight, registration, meals, and 4 nights in the hotel.
Right.
Thanks very much.
You bet. So Cindy has been a tireless worker with digital inclusion here in the state of Arizona, probably one of the most knowledgeable people about what's happening in digital inclusion, and keeps track of what's happening at the federal level, and just has been in co-chairs our digital inclusion network group. And so we'd really like to see her find some support to attend that conference. So there you go, Cindy.
Thank you.
You bet. And then School Connect. Are you online? Maybe not here today. Just a reminder, the School Connect is having their 6th annual summit on the 25th at Grand Canyon University. Again, they've been a great partner with us, and encourage you to attend. That is, at least the last I saw, is still a live event. So encourage you all.
Steve, it is. I'm actually one of the table facilitators for that. So
Okay.
Yes, it is still a live event. They're following safety protocols for COVID. There's also a link if you're not comfortable going in person that I can probably dig up and share with you if you want to share out to others that they can just do the live stream.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't think I saw that, or maybe I got a notice and didn't catch it. Anyway, thank you, Elena. Would like to definitely share that.
Sure.
Okay. And then moving on quickly. Excuse me, Cindy and Nicole, I don't know if you're online. I didn't check the list of attendees about the AZBSN Digital Inclusion Directory and Network. Cindy, Nicole, you guys have anything to add about that?
Yeah, Nicole is not able to attend today. We're kind of trying to define let's see, she sent me an email this morning. Our goal for, let's see. Our goal for this sort of subgroup of this group is the digital inclusion kind of network team / And we're aiming to identify barriers and facilitate the relationship building of participants. And the topic we discussed last week was the transition from the EBB program to the ACP program. It's a new group. We're just getting started. We're trying to figure out kind of the dynamics, and we'll keep everybody posted as it evolves.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Any questions for Cindy? Mala and Janet, again, I don't know if you're online. Anything about, excuse me, the telehealth and libraries project?
Janet is not online, and we are making slow progress as far as a pilot project is concerned. We are getting together the best equipment that the project needs, and working with NAU to see if those are the right ones. And also there was an expression of interest in Northern Arizona for a pilot project, again, similar to what we are doing in Pima County. But we want to get this project underway first before we can think of anything else that we can do with Northern Arizona. So right now we are still in the early stages of getting all the equipment and dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Okay. Great, thanks, Mala. Anybody new join us? Katrina, I think you might be new to our group this morning. Katrina Parker.
Yes, I'm here. I'm from Triad Wireless.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning. Anybody else new that we need before we move on? Okay, well, let's jump into our updates real quickly. Jeff, hope you're feeling better. I know you've been sick, not a good thing.
Yeah, let me give you a quick update here. My voice is a little off, so I apologize if I'm understandable. Three things I wanted to emphasize. Number one, our Arizona Broadband Development Grant is due a week from today on the 31st. Please get those in. There will not be an extension. We've had a couple folks that have stepped forward and said, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get it done due to RFPs and other things. And we expect to have additional funding throughout the year, but this is important. The quicker we get started on these projects, the less expensive they are and the quicker they will get done. As you can imagine, with as much money floating into this space, both government and private, the cost of the raw materials, the cost of the crews has gone up quite a bit. So the quicker you get it done, the less expensive it will be. I've had incredible response. We expect this thing to be very much oversubscribed, incredibly competitive. As I've explained to everyone, if you are not selected, that doesn't mean you have a bad project. We're going to have more rounds of this grants and different programs to fund different projects. This is very much focused on the infrastructure. We have quite a bit coming in terms of digital inclusion. There's money, obviously, in the IIJA fund, which everyone's talked about. The clarification of the Treasury rules around digital inclusion are actually very favorable to what we'd like to do. And I have some ideas about that as well. Next up, we are still in the process of hiring an assistant broadband director. I'm going to say part of that was put on the back burner with me being sick the last few weeks, but we're going to ramp that up here pretty quickly. So if there is an interest on your end, please do get me your resume and get over to ZipRecruiter and Indeed and all the sites that we put the information out. Lastly, our middle mile strategic plan. We're working with the governor's comms team, and we have to work around their media focus. The date that we're hearing is 2 weeks from now, first week of February. So expect to see that as well. So those are the three big updates I've got, Steve, and I'm very happy to be back.
Great, Jeff. Thank you. And I'm glad you're feeling a little better. Just take it easy and get well soon.
Thanks.
Okay. Mala, got any updates for the state library? And Holly, I believe you're online also, if you have anything, and Nicole is not with us today.
I'll start with the E-rate update and let you know, maybe Holly will update on anything else. As far as E-rate funding is concerned, Arizona has been funded for almost 98% of what it applied for. So that's about $103 million this 2021. The application window for 22-23 opened on January 12th, and the last date, it closes on March 22nd. The last date to put out RFPs is a month before that, that's February 22nd. So these dates we're monitoring and making sure that the schools and libraries are applying and not missing the deadline. The concern that we, the rest of the E-rate task force and other strategic partners are looking at is FCC's aim to nationalize the K-12 and libraries purchasing. This is a sweeping change that they're proposing to the E-rate funding program. They are looking to nationalize the procurement and shift it away from the local autonomy. And that's the most radical change that I have seen since I've started working on E-rate 20 years ago. At the risk of oversimplifying, I will just mention the key aspects of it. They want to start a new bidding portal where the service providers have to upload their responses to the E-rate RFPs, their 470s. The service providers will not be allowed to send their responses directly to the applicants as it is being done currently. There should be no communication between the service provider and applicants related to their E-rate request outside of the bidding portal. They also are saying that the bidding evaluation criteria and the worksheets and the list of people who did the evaluation, their title, their relationship to the applicant, all of that must be uploaded. Any memos, board meetings, documents related to the selection process has to be uploaded, and it has to demonstrate compliance with the E-rate program competitive bidding rules. The major concerns about doing this is that it's taking the bidding process, management of the bidding process away from the local procurement and forcing the applicants to consider non-responsive bids, sometimes just robot bids that appear on the portal. It eliminates the local bidding rules, like, for example, even in our own case in Arizona, we have state master contracts, and those contracts go through rigorous process of procurement. And this is going to become an issue with them because the dates that they would consider for the process would not match with the state procurement dates, because state procurement starts almost 1 year before the end of the current procurement, current award date. It takes that long for the state procurement to work. But then with these rules, they will have to follow the national guidelines, the USAC guidelines for the date of opening a bid and the date of considering it and the date of awards and all those kind of things. It's kind of a one size fits all that they're looking at, and that's not going to work. When we look, the Funds for Learning did an analysis for the funding year 2021 and didn't find that there were any major procurement issues that were addressed. So there were about 44,000 contracts that were submitted through the E-rate funding support program, and 4,000 service providers provided goods and services under the E-rate contracts. Many of them, number of them were small mom and pop kind of service providers in local areas who needed help even with uploading to the 470 on the current site. And if they can't answer it with this one single portal that we have, I can't imagine what is going to happen when they have a second portal with new set of guidelines and rules for them to deal with it. And the smaller applicants as well. This will put a lot of burden on them. So if any, my request to AZBSN is, if there are any concerns that any of you as service providers, small service providers, or as applicants have, I would really like to talk to you about it, because we are trying to roll all this through the E-rate task force, ALA's E-rate task force, to FCC to show them that there is a concern, and there is a genuine concern in establishing a second portal for bidding. Other than that, I don't have any other updates, Steve. This is we're in the throes of getting the RFPs and applications done for this year's application. So there's not much else that I am doing currently other than monitoring those and helping the applicants through this process.
So Mala, several questions. I assume that Shelby has been engaged in some discussion about this.
Yes. We have a task force, E-rate task force with Shelby as well. We're working through them. We will certainly be working through the state librarians as well, through COSLA. We will be working through Funds for Learning, which is another major E-rate consulting group, and E-rate Central. All of them are gathering data. We're gathering data at this stage of who's going to be affected, how they will be affected, how serious the problem is, and examples that we can take to FCC.
So also, how does this then affect the role of the state library well, I guess, and the Department of Ed, I guess, for that matter, in terms of people applying for these funds?
It will make our task a little harder to try to help applicants through another portal to do this. It would also mean that every single one of those bids that is appearing on the new bidding portal, if it happens, will have to be evaluated using a new set of rules and regulations, which we have to train them on. And it's going to be a burden on the state library as well as on the Department of Ed to try to get the small applicants through this process. It also means that there will be fewer applications, especially the ones who will drop out of this process will be the small applicants who actually need it the most. They are the ones who are going to be affected the most by this.
I didn't see him. Mylan, are you online by chance? Didn't think so. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Any questions for Mala? Holly, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just want to let people know that they can contact me via email or phone. You have my phone number, you have my email address on the registration, and I'm happy to take any examples. Especially, I would really like to know how it affects you as our input through the task forces, through the ALA task force, as well as Shelby task force.
Okay, thank you. Holly, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Mala covered it all. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, you bet. And so moving on, I don't think Janet's online today. And moving on, Department of Education, Sophia, Mylan, Kelly, you guys have anything you want to share with us this morning?
Hey, Steve, it's Sophia. Good morning. The main thing that you may have heard out of the department is that we've been messaging around the the looming deadline that the legislature has to suspend the budget limit for schools. I will put the link to the op-ed that Superintendent Hoffman released, even though she's on maternity leave, around that, so you can kind of see what's going on. If you have any questions about that issue, feel free, obviously, to email me. The other thing is, I know that Kelly and the Office of Digital Teaching and Learning are already up and going on their first like webinar training, group meeting of sorts that's going to be for school technology leaders. And I'll make sure to share information on that when we have a date and a link to join online.
So Sophia, you might want to, I know I've seen some information and emails, but you might want to share a little more details about this looming deadline with the legislature, because it's could be very devastating for the schools.
Sure, and the best way to understand the how devastating it could be, if you don't already like the superintendent on Facebook page, she's posting some county by county counts of how devastating it will be. That's the best way to kind of keep an eye on some of the numbers. But basically in the 80s, there was a budget spending cap put on schools. And usually every year, the legislature just votes to override it so schools can spend all the money that they already have been given, because this is money that the legislator has already said schools have, but this spending cap doesn't let them spend it. And for big districts like Chandler and Mesa, we're talking cuts in the $50 million mark. They are very, very, very big. And so it's definitely something to keep an eye on. This would have a huge impact on schools, who I'm sure you all already know are really hurting right now with COVID, teachers being out, 30 and 50% of students being out. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, but this is money schools already have been appropriated, but won't be able to spend unless the legislature acts to change something about the spending cap. Like I said, I will put the link to Superintendent Hoffman's op-ed where she explains it in even more detail in the chat.
Okay, thank you. And Kelly, I believe you're online. Do you want to add anything?
I am here, but no, Sophia did a great job. Thanks to Sophia.
Okay, and Leah, I don't believe you're online. So I did.
Steve, I don't hear Steve, but I do have kind of an announcement by or about her.
Okay.
She's speaking this Friday to the Arizona Energy Consortium. So her remarks will be more energy focused, but if there are questions, we can certainly steer her towards some broadband discussion. And that'll be at 9 o'clock this Friday. That's a free virtual only meeting of the Arizona Energy Consortium. Kirk put the link in the chat. I'll repeat it in the chat just so it's bottom of the screen for now. But she is speaking at a freely accessible meeting Friday at 9.
Okay, thank you. And Derek, I didn't see you online. Are you online with us now? I take that to be a no. And Wes Brownfield, don't see you online either. And so I think we're done with our updates. Does anybody have anything else, any other updates before we move on to our presentation this morning? Going once, going twice. If not,
we can give you a quick update on the Arizona Final Mile project. I'm sorry about that.
Okay,
This
no
is Rory.
problem. No problem, Rory, go on.
So PEMA's going online in the next day or so. The electricians are out there with our guys getting power to the tower. Tower's completed, everything's up and running. We'll be starting on Holbrook next week and Rimrock next week, and should have those up and running in the next two to 3 weeks. And then Forest Lakes is still waiting for some parts to come in, so we probably won't have that online until mid-March. But that's a supply chain issue with steel and towers, unfortunately. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Rory. Okay, if there's nothing else, let's move on to our presentation this morning. And I'm pleased to welcome Lisa Gustinelli, who is kind of a leader in an organization called Shaping EDU, and also with the Arizona State University Broadband Access and Equity Initiative. And so I participate when I can in those meetings, as does Mark and several others who may be on this call. And she has done some really great work, particularly meeting with some key people with the FCC related to the new changes in the Affordable Connectivity Program. And so we're glad to welcome Lisa this morning. She's been participating in our meetings recently, but it'd be good for you. You're all, I assume, welcome to also participate in those meetings. So with that, Lisa, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. So
And did I give all the correct information about you?
you sure did. You sure did. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So it's good to hear from, be here. And I have been attending, and I've learned a lot from attending. And I hope that I can share a few things from a meeting as recently as Friday with the FCC regarding the Affordable Connectivity Program. I am the innovator in residence for ASU, Shaping EDU. I'm also an instructional technologist and an ISTE certified educator. So I'm in the K-12 education arena as well. What I wanted to talk about today, and I'll just give you kind of a timeline of events, but we all know about the Affordable Connectivity Program. And from my involvement with the FCC and a community here in Florida where I live, Lyle Ishida, who's the outreach coordinator for the FCC, has coined the name Supermarket Program. And I'm going to explain that to what it is. It's more of a grassroots program that I'm actually kind of piloting for the FCC that will be done in local communities. So I thought it was best for me to kind of share a timeline of how this whole thing started and where we are today. So in February 2021, we launched with Shaping EDU.
Excuse me, Lisa, if I can interrupt, can you just tell people quickly about what Shaping EDU is?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So Shaping EDU is part of the Arizona State University's initiatives to create innovation and to connect the university with, outside both local, national and global people in different projects. There's a project about AR and VR. There's a project about toolkits for learning and online learning. And I head up the project for broadband access and equity. So we meet. I'd love, we can give the link, and I'd be happy for any of all of you to attend our meetings, which are at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'm in Florida, every Tuesday afternoon, and we welcome anybody and everybody to come to the meetings. So our main goal is to get participants access to broadband. So in February 2021, we, with the help of some of you who are in K-12 education, probably know Alice Keeler. She comes to our meetings from time to time, and she's a friend. And she has over 60,000 people on her Twitter. So she was able to tweet out at the height of COVID and at-home learning that we wanted stories from consumers who were the lack of broadband was affecting their ability to work, to learn, and to access services such as telemedicine. That call was returned with within one day. My email was given it just blew up. Within one day, I had over 60 emails from constituents from all over the United States talking about the issues. We gathered that all into a storybook, which I'll share all these links with Steve, and then perhaps he can share it with you. So after that, I had contacted Jessica Rosenworcel, At that point in time, she was the acting chairwoman of SCC, and invited her to come to one of our meetings to talk about the EBB. While she was at the meeting, we talked about all these emails from consumers, and her goal, as she told us, was to hear stories. And as a result of us meeting with her, they actually put a link on the FCC website where consumers can go in and put their story up, because as she said, in order to get legislation across, they need to be able to show stories. So that was all in early 2021. As a result of that, she then connected us with the Chief of Consumer Affairs of the Outreach Division for the EBB, and that's Lyle Ishida. And he directed us to the FCC website and told us we should be downloading flyers, posters, brochures, social media information. So I thought, well, why not? So here's a picture of me. I downloaded about 100 of those brochures, got on my bicycle, and it's an electric bike, so I can go pretty fast and pretty far, and went into a Haitian neighborhood. I live in downtown Delray Beach in Florida, and handed out as many as I could possibly give. Well, once I showed him the picture, I think he realized we were the real deal. And so he contacted me to help him with this prototype program. So again, in November, we met again, and he explained the program that he would like us to support. So anybody who comes to our meetings, and I'd love for you to get involved in this. He calls it the supermarket program because what it is, for example, kiosks would be set up. You know how you see those kiosks in a supermarket and you walk in and they're signing people up for something. So the idea would be to get somebody local and have them through a train the trainer program, which I'll talk about in a minute, start these kiosks. But it doesn't, he calls it the supermarket program, but it doesn't have to be a supermarket. It could be the laundromat. It could be the local community center, the church, anywhere where people who need to be connected would be together. So once we had the idea of what we needed to do, I have my own philanthropy. I've been connecting students to broadband, not even just broadband access, but just learning through technology through a philanthropy I started in 2011 called Madagascar in My Heart, where I would go every summer to different locations in Madagascar, set up labs for students, bring laptops, and get them connected. These are children living in abject poverty who had never even seen a device. And that kind of morphed into setting up in South Africa. We have a lab in Myanmar, and then I support some labs in Haiti as well. So this was none of this helping connect the poor was nothing that was really new to me. So with that organization, that philanthropy, I had gone into a city here in Florida called Belglade, where if you use Dixie Crystal sugar in your coffee, it's where the sugar canes are grown. And the city has most of the, I think 90% of the inhabitants are below the poverty level. They're making maybe $25,000 a year, and most are not connected. They are Haitian migrant workers. So they move from place to place a lot. And I was able to go to an after-school program to distribute iPads, laptops, a projector, different things I had collected up through my other philanthropy, and met a son of a pastor of this Belglade Haitian Baptist Church who runs this program. And he explained his concern about his community where citizens couldn't be afforded to be connected. So here we are with, I actually brought students because they helped with the collection of all the devices. And so Lyle Ishida of FCC thought this would be a great place to kick off this supermarket program. So the rollout, and then here's Lyle Ishida. We had our meeting with the FCC, and I brought in Marana St. Hilaire, who is the pastor's son, so he could tell a little bit about the demographic of Belglade, Florida, and learn about how we can connect with him to try to launch this supermarket ACP program. So I know you know all this. Households receiving $30 a month will be eligible, $100 discount. The qualifying income was raised to 200% in order to include the working poor. But what I didn't know is to be part of this, the FCC actually has to approve you. So when Marana explained everything that was going on and what's going on in his community, right then and there, Lyle Ishida said, "You are approved. Give me an address. Tell me how many brochures you want us to print up, and we'll start rolling this whole program out." So here comes the data, the numbers. We had to give them the zip codes of the area. So we gave them the 3 main zip codes of the area that we're going to be helping. And with that, the FCC could look up how many people are already connected through the EBB. We requested 30,000 flyers to be printed, 10 in Haitian Creole, 10 in Spanish, and 10,000 Haitian Creole, 10,000 Spanish, 10,000 English. Now, here are the rules that I learned on Friday. So we're getting ready to of course, roll out this whole program. It will start with training the trainer program, and where we'll get 2 to 3 individuals who will serve as the main trainers. And then the FCC will have a webinar where they will train the trainers and get us going. The thing is, when I met with them, they're probably not going to be ready
What's going on, man?
to roll out the train the trainer program.
Oh,
until
nice.
that
You
March.
back in the office today?
Okay. There, I'm not sure.
Nice.
Albert, could you please mute?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so this is where my notes come in because I don't want to say anything wrong, and it was quite interesting. So we gave the mailing addresses, they've sent out the brochures, they're having the train the trainer video sessions. That will be the first thing that happens. Okay, and then a video outreach kickoff event will happen. But here are some of the rules. The FCC is waiting for the order, I was told. Well, what's the order? Well, the order is the order of the rules because although legislation has been passed, the rules haven't been set yet. And I see Cindy shaking her head, so you know this. And so they said they're sure that the $30 per month is going to stick. The 200 poverty level, below the $200 poverty level will stick. But anything else is not written in stone because the program exists by statute and by law. And they still need to define the directives of how individual providers will manage the program and how legal will operate. They don't have all the details of transition from EBB to ACP. And they're hoping this week those rules will be set, but they really didn't want to even give a date because they actually have no idea. So while they haven't really received the funding yet, they said it's okay. You can start the process for signing people up and everything, but they don't want to release a PowerPoint, for example, for Train the Trainer, because they might have to make corrections. So everything is a kind of on hold, but not really because they already announced it. They said once the rules are available, information can be collected for the Train the Trainer supermarket program. So, and then that will be followed by a kickoff event where Marana Saint Hilaire, who's the son of the pastor of this Haitian church, as you can imagine, it's a Haitian community, and that's the gathering place. He is connected with the mayor, with the city manager, so he's going to get all his people together. And the idea is we're going to get the entire city of Belle Glade connected. Now, just a couple of interesting things I want to tell you that I learned, and then I'm done. One thing that I thought was interesting is they mentioned, oh, we're aware, I think I asked something about the illiterate. And they mentioned they want to be sure that, you know, yes, somebody can fill out the application. It can be a child that lives in the house. But they don't want to really address that. The FCC says, we just want you to take care of that. We don't want anything in writing about the illiterate or how it's done with them or how it's not done, that they don't want to take responsibility for that. That's one thing that I learned, although Lyle kept saying, you can get them the whole way through the application, but you cannot sign for them. Then they lose everything. They lose their SNAP, Medicaid, SSI, WIC, whatever they're on. Another interesting thing is cohabitants will be able to apply. So as long as one person in the household qualified, even if it's not your spouse, your child, your parent, your cousin, your relative, as long as they're living in that household, the whole household will qualify. Another thing they're trying to do to make it a little bit easier is any child in the household who qualifies as for reduced or free lunch then qualifies also the whole household for the ACP. And then there was one other thing that was quite interesting. So when they said, well, $100 towards a device, but the consumer has to give a minimum of $10 and not more, they can't spend more than $50. So I asked them, well, basically you're saying they can't get a device that's more than $150. Where are they getting a device that costs $150? And then I kind of answered my own question and asked them, and yes, indeed, imagine, and they couldn't say any providers, they couldn't use the word Comcast or Verizon or whatever. They just said, imagine salad, but they meant Comcast. They'll take a loss. Perhaps they have an agreement with Dell. Maybe they'll buy the devices for $250. They'll sell them to the consumer with through this program for $150 because that gets them in, and then they'll be getting their $30 a month. And then that consumer will continue to work with them. But this is another thing I learned. For example, you cannot have one provider where you're getting your $30 a month and another provider where you're getting the $100 for the device. It has to go all together with the one provider. So it looks to me like those are agreements that they're making with those providers, and the providers are definitely getting something out of it because then they're signing people up, right? And so they also said they do not have the list of providers yet. And they said not all will participate. So that's another thing that they're waiting on. But all in all, that's been the rollout. If this whole thing works and we get our kickoff going, it will be happening in March, probably late March, they said. And then the dream will be to get the entire city of Belle Glade and Pahokee connected. And that's it.
Great job, Lisa. Questions, comments, anybody?
Yeah, this is Ronnie Singh from Sahuarita Food Bank Community Resource Center. I tried to get one of my clients' application done online, and I did it with her. My concern was that you couldn't edit the information if you made a mistake.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody has encountered that. I mean, right now we're in the process of having to call the number there, but it made it really hard for her to edit her information. And we kind of got stuck with the application done the wrong way. And now we have to call and try to edit that information.
If you could give me your contact information, I can send that straight to Lila Sheeta, who's the head of all this. And we can help you with that.
Perfect, thank you. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is Cindy Hogan, and yes, I noticed that it's a government website, and it's a little bit inflexible. It's hard to back out when something goes awry. And the other thing, I was curious. I understand the supermarket idea. I've worked to get people eligibility status by going through the website. But the second and final part of this is that they have to engage with the providers to select a service and get involved. I'm always curious there. I've talked to some other people nationally who have done that by actually sitting with people while they make the call to the provider. I didn't realize when I was doing EBB that was allowed or that was acceptable. But this year, with when the subsidy was $50 and there was a $50 service, people could get especially the low income could get the service for free for a month. This time it's going to be $30, and the providers do not appear to have gone. I know this may be part of the rules that are coming up, but presently the lowest prices that I can see around Tucson are $50 period. So you're low income and you're still paying $20 a month. There's no more opportunity to get service for free. So I wondered, when you're doing supermarket signups, that's just eligibility, and unless you're actually making calls to providers while you're sitting there in the supermarket. I'd be curious to hear how you're negotiating that.
Lisa, could you stop sharing, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
A couple of things that I wanted to say. One thing is they're working on actually having the providers they got this okayed by the federal government to have the providers actually be a kiosk spot. So one of the places where they could go right to the Comcast office, and there'll be a kiosk there for signing up. Your other thing is, yes, they still haven't solidified the list of providers. I imagine they're negotiating with these providers to make sure that the person who is signed up can get that $30, not $50, and can get a device by only spending $50. That helps.
Lisa, do you have a sense, is the FCC you talked about flyers, is the FCC planning to provide any funding for outreach for all this?
Yes, so that's those 30,000 flyers. They're printing them at no cost to this Marana. They've already sent them out. He'll be receiving them. They pay the UPS or the FedEx or whatever it is to send it. So there's no cost. There won't be any cost involved as far as train the trainer, any kickoff programs. They said they'd even do social media blasts for the whatever community is doing this. And so they really want to do everything they can to get a grassroots effort. They want to go in that direction. I think they feel like with the EBB, I mean, think about it. If somebody doesn't have broadband, it's really hard for them to not navigate the website and try to figure all that out, which is why if this works, they're going to try to use this as a prototype for a grassroots project. And then there's one other thing I forgot to say. I wanted to collect data about, we've seen it, and Steve, I know you've talked about it, like things like, well, 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 year out, to see, was this effective? Were you now able to have telehealth? Are you now connected? How often do you send an email? Are you able to use a device? And they said they don't the FCC doesn't want to be responsible for doing any kind of a survey. But anybody who does a survey and collects the data, again, kind of like those emails that I told you about at the beginning of the presentation, can submit that. They'll use that for legislations, but they don't want to have their own survey, which I found the only thing they're going by is that slide where I showed you, we had to give them the zip code, the zip codes. They know how many people are on EBB, and then they'll follow with the zip codes to see who signs up.
So Lisa, when you were talking about the flyers, that's just for your project in Florida? Are they talking about a national program? For
National, anybody who goes on that website and requests, but remember, he had to approve it first.
Right.
So you'd have to get to him and he would have to approve for, that entire city or rural area or whatever it is. As long as they approve it, they will pay for it and send everything out.
So is there a place on the website to request that? Or do they have to send an email or call Lyle to get that approval?
I would suggest they go to the website and they send there's a consumer link on the website where they can request. And I imagine if it's a small number, you don't have to go through them for approval. But once you get like what we're getting, the 30,000 flyers sent, well, then they have to approve the project.
Okay.
But this is what they want to do. I got the sense that they're very, very motivated to get this grassroots effort off the ground. And Lyle reports, right, to Jessica Rosenworcel, and she's continually asking him, what are we doing grassroots? What are we doing? What she wants to see stories and people and communities that are getting connected.
So Lisa, you've done some great work. Should we also try to connect with Lyle, maybe even have him join one of our meetings here and have further discussion with him? What's your thought?
I think it would be wonderful. I'm sure he would. We speak almost every week. We're like besties now. He's contacting me for other things as well. But I think it would be a great idea. And another thing that I think would be great would be to get Morana St. Hilaire, who's this pastor's son, who is his community activist. I mean, I can do all I can to be in on the meetings and connect these two and try to get things going. But in the end, Morana is the guy because he's got to contact his local Haitians leaders who come to his church to say, hey, will you put this in your laundromat? Hey, would you bring this up at your community meeting, or the city manager? So the two of them, I'll try to get the two of them on.
Yeah, and so it'd be great if you could do an intro. I actually had planned to contact Lyle after attending your meeting, but if you could at least do maybe a brief intro, and then we can follow up and see how we can schedule that. That'd be great.
Okay, great.
So Mala is asking, will they do PSAs for local TV?
I believe so, because they're once it gets going, they told me they're planning on doing a lot of public relations with this. I didn't get all the details of that, but they did say that they're going to start doing that as soon as it gets going. As I said, as you know, anything with the government, we're just waiting. It's like a waiting game, right? We have to understand that everything is going really slow because they have to get everything improved first.
Hi, Lisa. This is Mauricio. I was wondering, you did mention that if any child in the household qualifies for a free school lunch program, they qualify. So my question is there an initiative around how do they get this data from school? So who's sharing that data so they can get word out and maybe promote it and get people enrolled?
Yeah, all the schools have that data because it's a federal government program, right? So they can pretty easily identify Title I schools. Title I schools are also schools where most of the students who qualify for Title I funds are at or below the poverty line. So basically, any K-12 school gets their funding for special programs for those students at the school due to that Title I. So, and then of course there's the free lunch, but that's all under Title I.
So the question is the school supposed to reach out, or is it the other way around, or how does that communication come together?
As of now, as of today, I would say the school would have to reach out, but the goal is to get community activists to help these families and the schools and the children. It's a huge job, and I think they don't even know how to do it yet, which is why I guess this program that I'm working on with them is kind of like the test, the litmus test. So we'll see how that all goes. But any input anybody has, or right now, I'd love ideas about a survey we can do, because I'll just say this one last thing. At Shaping EDU, we're having something called the Pente Challenge in February 22nd. If anybody would be interested in promoting broadband access at that challenge, it's going to be kind of like a Shark Tank team that I'm leading. It's going to be a 1.5-day challenge. The first day, we're going to come up with our pitch. And the second day, we're going to pitch and with the idea of getting grants from different providers as a result of our pitch. So hopefully with what's going on with this whole program, we can get some help.
Oh, you have your hand up.
I was just going to say the free and reduced lunch data that schools have is one of the most tightly held pieces of data on the planet. And even within a school district, if you work in a school district, if you're not in the right department and have the right approval, you will never know who has and who has not been granted rights under that program. So if there's any using of data under that program, I would be like, where did that come from? Because that program is the tightest program on the planet that I've seen, other than HIPAA. Well, actually, yeah, it's extremely tight. So yeah.
But they could get the data about Title I schools if the school is a Title I school, and pretty much if they're a Title I school, they have to have a certain amount of percentage different students who are qualified for that. So yes, you're not going to get like an individual student name.
Yeah, that's correct, because Title I schools, once you reach a threshold, then your whole school could be designated as Title I. But there's a lot of schools who are either on the edge of that, who may not, and so then they would be precluded from this qualification. So I think there's worthy of a discussion to be had with the USDA, because you know, there's so many things that are being built off the data from the free and reduced lunch programs, which there's so many things getting tied to it, but the reality is we have no visibility into it unless you're part of that sacrosanct committee or group that actually has that, because it is extremely sensitive. It's extremely private data that is collected and decisions are made upon.
Oh, I forgot to say, that reminds me, one last thing is I don't know even what time it is, but one last thing is that what I found, and I put it on one of the slides and forgot to say that, the one slide where we went in and we gave technology and iPads and projectors and things like that, and we spent the day with the children and worked with robots, that was a building of trust. So we have to remember that when we sign up, I'm thinking of the children on a school lunch, when you ask a family, is your child on school lunch program? So, and the illiterate people, they have to trust the person who's filling out the application. You're getting their social security number, you're getting sensitive information about their family. So, and a really important part of this grassroots that I don't think the federal FCC thought about is whoever you're getting in there to launch this program, the only way it's going to work is that you have a trusted community leader, and that the people trust what you're doing, and the fact that you're getting this information to help them. He told me some some of the people were afraid to sign up because they owed money. Say they didn't pay their bill for 3 months for Comcast. So they think they're going to get in trouble, but no, they don't. It doesn't matter how much you owed. I asked them specifically that question. They can still sign up.
They're not even
Drew, go
allowed, I
ahead.
think, to consider that.
No.
I think the
They're not-
recent law.
They're
Yeah.
not, but they some of the independent provider processes, if they don't go through the USAC website, they actually are doing credit checks. So they've had to change that out of the rules and come down a little harder in this new version. But that's what they were doing as part of their process, which they weren't supposed to do.
So Drew, did you have some other things? I know you're pretty involved in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Lisa, this is awesome. I'm with Elena and I are with Common Sense Media, and we work a lot with schools, and we've written comments to help shape the rules that the FCC is using. I know that they have been talking a lot about setting aside about $100 million to do grants to organizations like yours and others to help them do this sort of work. They're writing the rules for that process right now. So I'll be monitoring that. But yeah, this sounds incredible. How are you finding people to do the on the ground kiosks and outreach? You've got so many flyers and so many people to contact. That's a lot of manpower.
Right. So that's the trust issue. That's the where Marana is he's the key. The pastor's son is the key, because this Haitian Baptist church is where everybody congregates. There are 100 children that go there every afternoon. They pick them up at school, they feed them, they give them tutoring, because the parents are working until dark. So he is networked in with all the different community leaders of that community. So the first thing we'll have to do is identify who those community leaders are. And because he has pockets also, he told us there's pockets maybe of Hispanics, even though it's that largely Haitian community. There are pockets of Hispanics. So they're going to want to work with their people that they know and they trust. So this is going to be a huge organization, and honestly, we're just starting it. So I'll keep, maybe I could come back after March or after April, and hoping. It seems like it's all going to go well, but I'm sure there'll be some bumps along the way.
Hi, Lisa. I just have a question. I know that with the district that I'm collaborating with, which is the Sahuarita Unified School District, and Manny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of families didn't apply because all the students are on the free and reduced lunch. So what happened to that?
They did not apply?
They didn't apply for the lunch program because all the students right now, because of COVID, are on the free and reduced lunch program. Is that correct, Manny?
Yes, that's correct, Ronnie.
Well, so remember, that was among the list of things that would qualify you. For example, if somebody in your family is on Medicaid, if you're on WIC, SSI, SNAP, Pell Grant, if there's a child on free lunch. So I imagine if they qualify for that, then you would want to go for a different direction, right? You'd want to identify if there's a member of the family or if the family is receiving any other type of government service.
But Ronnie, this is Mala. The NSLP students are eligible to receive their devices and internet connectivity through their schools, through the ECF program. So they, that's one of the reasons why you see that they don't sign up if they just have one child or children in that household. But the households that do not have children that are not on NSLP, obviously, because they don't have children in school, and if every single child is signed up, they are not in that category. But there are other eligibility criteria And if they meet those criteria, the poverty level, the loss of job and all those kind of things, then yes, they will qualify.
Yeah, and I can't answer, I'd love to answer all really specifically all the questions, but that's the feeling I got on Friday when I met with the FCC, is that that's why they're not ready to really publish any PowerPoints or train the trainers yet, because all those things that we're talking about right here, they're trying to iron it out and do the rules, and they haven't really solidified the rules yet. Then we'll be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of bring up one thing that has been a topic in the past. When children get their devices from schools, sometimes they'll ask for those devices back when the school year ends.
Yes.
And they're back to square one. So if someone were to participate in purchasing a device through this program, do they actually own it and get to keep it, or do they have to give it back if they don't continue on with the program?
They can own it and keep it. And you're right about the school devices, because I'm in a school where we have Title I students. Even as the school, we're allowed to keep the devices for 5 years, at which time they can decide either, okay, you can just keep them forever, or no, we want them back. I've only experienced, at least here in Florida, with our county saying you can just keep them after the 5 years. They don't really ask for them back. There was a thing that I can't totally answer the question, maybe somebody else here, I didn't take notes on that, but they were explaining to me that basically I would call it like double dipping. Like if somebody's already getting things from one program in the family, if they're getting a device, then another person can't also get a device. So in other words, they're saying one device per family, which I thought that was hard, because if you have a lot of children, plus you need it to work, they're only letting you get one device for your entire family.
Okay, we're pretty much out of time at this point. Lisa, great presentation and great work you're doing. I'm really glad you were able to join us. And obviously, this is going to be an ongoing discussion, and that we need to look at how we're going to be engaged in helping all of our folks and others engage with all of this. And so I think it would certainly be useful to obviously to continue our collaboration with you, but also perhaps to meet with Lyle.
Yes, absolutely. I'll talk to Lyle, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy, either him or one of his other key people from the outreach program.
Well, again, Lisa, you've done some great work here. As we all continue to learn that this is a hugely complex challenge here. It's not as simple, let's get people connected and everything's happy, because it's not quite that way, is it?
No. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any final questions or comments for Lisa before we end the meeting for today? Are there any other announcements, anything else people want to share before we end today? Okay, if not, so just one quick thing. As you probably know from my email last week, as well as the announcement, that unfortunately we've lost Henry's great work in summarizing our meetings and so forth, and that's really unfortunate. But we are we are saving the transcript, but the and I will share that with you, but there were lots of errors. And so I just want to make sure you understand when you read it, that sometimes it doesn't make sense because of the way the transcript. I'm going to be looking for some other options for maybe better transcription services. But in the meantime, I will share that with you, the video, the registration, as I did last week, and or sent that out. So anyway, just wanted to have to do a disclaimer here, right, Ors? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So with that, any other questions or comments? If not, we're going to officially end this meeting. I will stop recording. And if any of you want to stay online in Kibitz, you're more than welcome to do so.
Steve, I just want to say they're looking for the link for Shaping EDU and all that. So would you send that? Would that be available to them?
Yeah, we will. The chat, if you put it in the chat, Lisa, and then also I do send the registration, people who have registered. So I send that registration list. So if any of you want to also reach out to Lisa, you're welcome to do that. But yes, put it in the chat and I will be sharing the chat. Okay.